Shop President's Day savings at the Home Depot with up to 40% off select appliances like Whirlpool that can keep up with your busy routine. The Home Depot has Whirlpool laundry appliances with Fan Fresh. This feature fans and tumbles your laundry after it's done to help keep your clothes fresh until you're ready to grab them. Shop President's Day savings now and get up to 40% off. Plus, free delivery on select appliances at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Free delivery on appliance purchases of $1,498 or more. Offer valid February 5th through the 25th. U.S. only. See store online for details.
Guys, it's no use putting it off. The best time for an underwear refresh is now. Tommy John underwear is designed for a perfect fit that stays put all day. There's zero chafe thanks to 4 times more stretch than competing brands. And their innovative horizontal quick draw fly is a game changer. With over 30 million pairs sold, there are thousands of men out there more comfortable than you. Don't settle for less. Go to TommyJohn.com today for 25% off your first order with code COMFORT. That's TommyJohn.com/comfort. Tommy John. Comfort perfected.
If your home reeks of smoke, there's a right way and a wrong way to fix it. From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largis. What actually removes smoke safely and when it's time to call in a professional.
It really comes down to what type of smoke that you're dealing with. If it is cigarette smoke or cannabis, you're going to see staining.
Move over Marty Supreme. Before he was a comedian, Lewis Black was a basement ping pong champion.
I was good. My brother was a little better, but I could put some spin on it. There were no ping pong role models. I just wanted to beat my brother.
Cheap Old Houses are back with 2 classic charmers under 30 grand. All of this, plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Coming up right after this. It's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largis. The smell and musk of stale smoke is unmistakable. Along with the off-putting smell, it can really also cause health issues. Darren Hudema is the Director of Training and Technical Services at PuroClean. He's here to share his expertise on eliminating these odors and let us know when it's time to call in a pro. So Darren, what is the first thing you should do if your new home has that stale smell of smoke?
One of the challenges that you typically are going to find when you're dealing with odors such as smoke is trying to find out what is the actual cause. It really comes down to what type of smoke that you're dealing with. And so it usually is going to require a good assessment. A lot of times if it is cigarette smoke or cannabis or things to that extent, you're going to see typically staining or things that would be an indication that, something's been going on for a period of time from, previous owner or renter or something along those lines.
Now, I know when you think of something like mold, as soon as you disturb mold, it can become airborne. Is the same true for residue from smoke that maybe is laying on a surface?
If you're dealing with particulate, yes. It can be respirable at that point. So your 3 points of entry typically is inhalation, dermal, and ingestion. Those are the ways that an individual can be typically compromised and over long periods of time lead to health issues.
And so if you're going to try to maybe, clean this up before you maybe resort to calling in a professional in hopes that it can get resolved, what are some cleaning steps that you can take to try to mitigate the problem on your own?
When you start looking at the removal process, I like to use the analogy a little bit in class of why we go through a dry cleaning process. If you have sand, for example, it's easier to vacuum up sand in a dry form than it is to try and vacuum it when it's wet, because it becomes a lot heavier. And not only that, with the smoke molecules, if you start with a wet cleaning process, some cases what you actually do is smear the smoke into the surface of a material. Yeah. So we try and remove as much of that particulate as we can in the dry form. Wiping down surfaces, if you see that, and I'm a kind of a white glove type of person, when you wipe a surface and you can see, you got black particulate, Or if you see some browning that comes onto the surface of your glove, it's going to tell you you're probably dealing with nicotine, tar type chemicals that are on the surface. Essentially, if I do have dry soot, a good way to eliminate it from becoming airborne is using HEPA-Vacs. Not your traditional HEPA-Vacs. These ones that professionals use, they're sealed in a particular way, and the filters don't allow anything to get back into the air. That nicotine is kind of like an oily, sticky residue. So you need a good degreaser that's capable of breaking that down. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to go through a cleaning process. You're cleaning until you get to the point where you don't have any residue that's left. And once that residue is gone and you're very comfortable with the fact that you're not going to have something that's left over with a bleed through, then you can consider a painting process.
Do you recommend a lag time between cleaning and painting just to sort of check your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're probably going to give it a couple of days. When you're going through a wet cleaning process, those surfaces need, especially more porous surface like drywall and things to that extent, they're going to absorb a certain amount of moisture. And so what you want to do is allow for some dry time to occur, but also give the building, some time to see whether or not your cleaning process was effective in removing the odor.
So I heard you mention a couple specialized tools. One was your white glove, very important. But the other was the HEPA-Vac. Are there others that a homeowner can use or that a professional would use?
When it comes to airborne particulate, we try and keep that limited as much as possible. So we talked about the HEPA vacuum. We'll also talk about a HEPA air filtration device. You're getting down to 0.3 microns in size, which you typically can't see with the naked eye. And those HEPA filters are about 99.97% effective in removing the particulate from the air. Another tool that's used quite often, ozone. You might smell what ozone smells like when you go to a photocopier machine, and you get this kind of a pungent smell to the copying process. What it's actually doing is creating ozone. Ozone produces a gas. Basically, what it takes is oxygen, which is an O2 molecule, and splits it into an O3 and becomes an oxidizer. And it can be very effective. I don't recommend people going out and purchasing their own ozone machines. There's enough studies out there that show what the dangers and the hazards are to ozone generation. They're used by professionals, and they do it in a specific way in which the building is not occupied. They allow for enough time for the building to be aired out from the concentrations of ozone, because it is a respirable irritant. And depending on what the concentrations end up being in the building, it can deplete a building of oxygen. It can create some serious issues that a do-it-yourselfer may not be aware of.
How at risk are your mechanical systems, your HVAC system, things like that, when obviously they're transferring air from one room to another?
So you're going to end up having to go through a thorough cleaning of the HVAC system. And usually it's going to require a dry cleaning and in some cases a wet cleaning process as well to remove the residues that are that sticky, oily residue.
If a homeowner is going to hire a professional, is there a specific certification they should look for?
As far as this industry is concerned, there's only one body when it comes to certifications. They were established in 1972. It's called the IICRC, and they're the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. And they've got close to 27 standards that have been written for the cleaning and restoration industry. Look for companies that are IICRC certified. Their technicians have gone through the certifications. And the other body that is an association is the Restoration Industry Association.
Well, Darren, thank you so much for joining us today. This is great information.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
That was Darren Hudema, Director of Training and Technical Services at PuroClean. For more information about property restoration, go to puroclean.com. Right now, we're answering your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, this is Mary Armstrong Reiner. I live in McDonough, Georgia.
Mary, thanks for calling. What's your question today?
So my husband and I bought a house 5 years ago, and on one wall of the house is two fireplaces. One's in the main. It's one pretty much open big room. One of them is in the main living room, and the other is in a bonus space. And we have not used the fireplaces. And listening to your show, I thought, I've been afraid to use them because we haven't had them checked or cleaned or anything. And I wondered, I know I can hire people, but I didn't know how often they should be checked, if there's any type of certification for who I should look for. So I've been afraid to use them until I do something about that.
Absolutely. Well, to help answer your question, we have Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here to help. Zach, what advice do you have?
Hey, Mary, are these gas fireplaces or is this you're loading logs into it type of fireplace?
No, they're gas.
They're gas, right? So,
yes.
The nice thing about gas is it burns relatively cleanly when compared to wood, right? So,
Okay.
You typically don't ever see the sort of chimney fires of a plume of fire shooting out of the chimney the way you would with a wood fire, because you don't get sort of a buildup inside the chimney because the gas is much cleaner. So my hunch is if you switched it on and you got it working properly, I wouldn't expect to have any sort of house fire type situation that would really be problematic. But I think you seem like a fastidious person. So I think it might be worth just reaching out to a local fireplace company and saying, I just want to have my 2 units serviced, make sure everything is good, because maybe there is some dust in there or something that's sort of settled over the years that could catch fire, that you'd like them to, have cleaned or looked at before you start. But I think the risk is relatively low, but I think for the price of a service fee, which my guess would be, between $200 and $600, it's probably worth it for peace of mind, especially because you do have 2 of them, and they might say something like, well, actually, a bug made a nest in the pilot light, so it can't light. It'd probably be something like just hasn't been used type of issue, so they won't function. But they can run you through the proper startup steps, and I think you'll be good to go.
Okay, great. That helps a lot. I really appreciate it. Well, I had one other quick question. So you guys, listening to you made me wonder, is there anywhere out there that there's a list of the things you need to have checked on your house? Because we're new homeowners, but, I'm not sure of things that need to be, some things to be done to keep your house in working order. And sometimes you find out too late. So I didn't know if there's any resources out there to be able to look up a list of things that you should have checked annually, every 3 years, every 6 months.
Absolutely. This old house actually offers something called seasonal checklist, which are the items that you need to pay attention to every single season. And that can be a really great jumping off point for the things that you need to keep in mind and the different kind of seasonal maintenance around your home that will get you started as a new homeowner. If you go to thisoldhouse.com and you type in seasonal checklist, that should pop right up.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I love your show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you for listening, Mary.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
You too. Coming up, we answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. It's This Old House Radio Hour. Today's episode is supported by Quo, spelled Quo, the modern alternative to run your business communications. Quo understands just how much the basic stuff matters. like how you should talk to customers and keep your team on the same page. Their cleaner, more modern setup can make everything feel smoother and bring the level up mindset to your business. Quo allows your entire team to handle calls and texts from one shared number, so there's no more missed messages or disconnected conversations. Since everyone sees the full thread, replies are faster and customers feel genuinely cared for. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/thisoldhouse. That's quo.com/thisoldhouse. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largess. Right now we're tackling your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. And we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. This is Candace from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hi, Candace. What's your question today?
I had some two defective double-hung windows replaced, and the contractor said that they would paint the sides of the windows on the wall after removing some shutters that were there. And I have cracks that were there before. Apparently there was moisture that was between the closed shutters and the windows, so the contractor said that they would remove the shutters, fix the paint, and a couple weeks after that was done, the rectangular cracks are appearing on the side, and the corner sheetrock has cracks along it where there were cracks in the paint before. And then the person removing the shutters used a pry bar that deflected the sheetrock corners. So now there's rusted looking parts of the sheetrock corner coming through the paint. So I'm trying to figure out what remedies I might have.
Yeah, no kidding. How frustrating. So to help answer your question, we have Mauro Henrique, the painter for the show, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, both here to help. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Candace is one of those homeowners who's just got expectations that are way too high. She expects, things
Zachary
to look better
Detmore.
after we show up. Sounds like the contractor did exactly what they needed to.
We're going to hang up on you.
So, Candace, how old is your house?
It's actually a condo, so it's 40 years old, and the windows were probably put in by an original owner. But the shutters, when they were removed, show that the ceiling had been painted after the shutters went in.
Got it. So just so I sort of understand the anatomy, you have a window, and instead of having woodwork around it, you just have drywall with corner bead that returns into the window. The shutters were mounted inside that opening.
No, the shutters were mounted on the face on the wall for the whole room.
So the window's recessed and the shutters are on the surface that's the wall for the rest of the room.
Correct.
And the part that's cracking is the recessed part?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a better idea of what's happening now, Candace. And my assumption is that when you had the shutters covering up areas, you had some discrepancies in the way the walls were aging. And then when a painter came back, they didn't necessarily prep everything appropriately. The rust you're seeing is because now when the corner bead was damaged, it's now exposed, and there's some humidity in the air which is oxidizing on that. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is anything that's loose, cracked, damaged needs to be kind of cleaned out and prepared. What do you think from there, Mauro? Just like a standard prep?
When I listen to the word rusty, it means has to be taken care of first than anything else, in my opinion. You take care of the rest when the corner bead, the metal corner bead, that's what she's talking about. Coat of oil-based primer, spray or brush on. And then from there, you start to take care of the cracks. The way I like to do it, I will gauge a little bit more, all right? And I will, like I said before, I would put a little bit of primer or even flat paint on it, and then you patch on top of it. Patch it, let it dry, lightly sand, another coat of primer on it, and this is the way I would approach this project. Taking care of the rust first, then anything else, and then look at the cracks and fill up, let it dry, put a coat of primer before you paint, and then put the top coats. That's what I would do.
And the only thing I would add to that is where you have those dents in the corner bead, your painter, your contractor is going to have to physically sort of push that, like sort of tap it with a hammer to get it back into place, and then use a joint compound to fill any discrepancies so that looks straight again. So it is, it is a big process to get everything looking uniform.
If you start to take care of that right away, take care of all the patching, take care of all the repairs, and then painting is the last thing. And call your contractor and make sure that they know exactly what needs to be done.
All right. Thank you very much for taking my question.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you.
Call us now to have your home improvement or DIY question answered. 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hello. This is Julian French from North Kansas City, Missouri.
Julian, what's your question today?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I have an old house. It's about 100 years old. Right, it's in the area of North Kansas City, Missouri, one of 3 Kansas cities, but that's another topic there. So I'm working on changing. Well, I had some copper piping issue, and some of the pipes got disconnected, so I connected all of that. And of course, if you're working on plumbing, if you think you found the issue, that's not really the issue, but rather it's something else that's going on as well.
Every time.
And so one of the issues, every single time. And so one of the issues is that I had to change out the valves for the sink and also change out the faucet. Okay. So I changed out the faucet. That's good to go. And then I thought, okay, well, let me just go ahead and change the drain as well, because the drain that's in there is really old. Mm-hmm. So the issue that I'm having is that because it's a pedestal sink, I'm having a hard time getting leverage to detach the old drain from the actual sink itself. Mm-hmm. Right? So the sink is kind of close to the wall. I have some of the piping that connects to the valves in the way. And then the part that goes into the drain on top of the sink, that's kind of stuck as well.
Well, we've got Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here to help. Zach, you worked on a pedestal sink before, I'm sure. A time or two in your day.
So is this the type of pedestal sink that has 2 bolts that mount to the wall, or is it the type of pedestal sink that there's sort of like a French cleat type metal thing that it's sort of hooking over the top of?
Yeah, it's the kind that has 2 bolts that connects to the wall.
And if you were to unbolt that, is it you think a reasonable project so you can gain access to that drain?
Yeah, I guess I could. I kind of didn't want to have to do that, but yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, some of these things are in 2 pieces, so that if this is original pedestal sink, you might be able to sort of lift up on the countertop and sink portion of it, for lack of a better word, and slide out the pedestal itself. And then make the connection, then slide the pedestal back and drop it down. But if you can't do that, unfortunately, you're going to have to unbolt the whole thing, which is also a pretty awkward endeavor because the bolts are sort of like tucked in and you've got your hoses in the way and everything. But that's typically what I see my plumbers doing is getting the drain in the right place and then putting the pedestal sink back in place again.
When you remove a pedestal sink, I don't know, ours anyways, was completely secured to the wall just with the ring of caulk around it. So we had to cut that away first. Do people do that, or was that just unique to my house?
It depends. There's been codes that have come along since pedestal sinks were invented that sort of require that there is sort of a seal between the back of a sink and the wall. But like original pedestal sinks, sometimes they were floating off the wall by, an 1.5 inches away from the wall. But it depends. It sounds like this one is close to the wall. But yeah, a lot of times you are sort of cutting through silicone and caulk to get these things out.
We unbolted ours and it went nowhere. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, once you start messing with the drain, there is that propensity for you to like make the project bigger, which is exactly what you're describing is happening. So you definitely want like good access to make sure you're confident with that sort of P-trap to wall connection.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, if I find myself removing the pedestal sink from the wall, then I might as well just get a new one anyway.
I knew it.
Since I'm not sure how long this one has been in there.
I mean, the argument people typically make for getting rid of pedestal sinks is the lack of storage below them and the lack of counter space above them. But if you have one that's beautiful, I think they're arguably better looking and more durable than any vanity. And in a small bathroom, because they have no footprint, they have the effect of making the bathroom look a little bit more spacious. So if you like it and it's beautiful, I would, make an argument to keep it in place. But if you are like, man, I would love a place to put my glass cleaner and an extra roll of toilet paper, then it might be time to, get yourself a bathroom vanity.
Julian, if it makes you feel any better, this is exactly what we did in our bathroom. And I thought we should replace the pedestal sink. We bought a vanity. We set it in there and it made the bathroom look so small. We went back and got out the pedestal sink and reinstalled it. Yeah.
Oh, so you can just come to my house and do it all for me then.
Yeah. So that might hopefully save you some time.
Just make sure you go to the right Kansas City.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Just spin around and point your finger and you'll find one of them.
No.
Well, thanks for the call, Julian. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Call us now at 877-864-7460. 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And who's calling today?
This is Richard Morris, Washington, D.C.
And Richard, what's your question today?
Well, I own a red brick colonial in Northwest D.C. It's in great shape, and I want to keep with that design and all the features of it. But I have to cool it.
Absolutely.
And it's got a good heating system, but there's about 3 months of the year in that D.C. summer, August and July, when I need something more than window units. And so my question is, what are my alternatives for cooling the house, given that I want to maintain the house in its as-is condition as much as possible?
Got it. All right. Well, to help answer your question, we have Ross Trithui, building engineer for the show, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, here to help. Ross, what do you think of his options?
Yeah, it sounds like he's got an amazing home in D.C. there, and obviously preserving the historic, allure of the house. That's important. So it can be tricky to do, right? So, you mentioned you have a central furnace for the house currently. So I'm assuming it's a gas furnace either in the basement or the attic. Is that accurate?
Correct. I put a new furnace in recently, and so I've got all the heat I need in the winter.
Yep. And that ductwork is it running through exterior walls or close to exterior walls? And I'm going to make the assumption that's uninsulated as well.
It's a classic furnace where it relies on hot water circulating through the units in each room.
Oh, it's a radiator system.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. If you're trying to do air conditioning, then it's going to be a separate system from your heating system. So we can't piggyback off of obviously the piping and those radiators. Those are only going to be for heat. So your options are really, they're really three. One is a ductless system, meaning, no ductwork. And we'll talk about that in a second. Your second option is going to be a centrally ducted system, like a conventional ducted system. And the third is going to be a small duct high velocity system. So you really have three options, all with pros and all with cons. So the first one would be ductless heat pumps. Those ones are going to be like either the white boxes on the wall, like a mini split, or a ceiling cassette, something that's recessed into the ceiling that blows, cold air out of it. So with those two options, there's no ductwork. A lot of people don't want to see the white boxes on the wall, so that's usually out if you're trying to preserve the character of the home. Although that is an option, and it's usually a low-cost option in terms of the upfront cost to get it installed. The next option would be a centrally ducted system. So that would be putting in, new ductwork. That would be like in the attic or the basement, connected to an air handler, and that would blow cold air out of it into the rooms. But you have to, find a home for that ductwork, insulate it, and put the registers in the room. Mm-hmm. So that can be tricky to do in a retrofit home, especially an older home. And the third option would be a high velocity system. So that's the same idea as what I just mentioned, but it's smaller ducts. So it's usually easier to retrofit into an existing home.
I see. The space in the walls is very limited. Are you saying that the small duct system might allow me to put small pipes through the walls and ceiling to carry the high velocity air? Yeah.
The typical round ducts are about 4 inches in outer diameter. So if you can get a 4-inch duct through that chase, through that wall cavity, provided it's, separated from the outside as best as possible, that could be an option.
And where are the central units?
Yeah, so typical houses would have a unit in the basement doing the first floor and a unit in the attic doing the second floor. That's the most kind of traditional way we see it done. And each system would have a set of line sets, like refrigeration piping, that goes to an outdoor unit. We call that a condenser.
Is this a newer option that has become available?
No, so a small duct high velocity has been around I think it's been around since like the first iteration, I think it was like the 50s. But realistically, in the 70s, I think is where it really started to kind of take shape.
Why wouldn't people always choose that over a traditional ducted system?
There's trade-offs. Small duct high velocity systems have little jets of air that kind of shoot out of the holes. So it has aesthetic advantages of just having those small holes. It also has the advantages of being easier to retrofit into a home. Mm-hmm. The downsides, of course, is that it's going to be a little bit more noise. So when you have these jets of air, it does generate more noise than a conventional, that would be a quieter system. There are some limitations in terms of the heating and cooling sources to that unit.
Okay.
I see.
And so, I guess those would be the major concerns. And material cost is more than conventional ductwork.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I would put a high velocity system in every job if it weren't for the fact that it typically is more expensive. And it seems like, in my market, technicians are harder to come by that are masterful with installing it correctly in the first place.
So if I understood correctly, the cost is due to skill, labor limitations?
The material's more too, because basically you can buy ductwork and make it yourself, but you have to buy all that high velocity product through the manufacturer. Is that fair to say, Ross?
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to go the high velocity route, I would find a certified contractor that's been trained on that product. There are different brands out there that offer, and then they have their preferred contractors. So if you want to get a quote on a system, I would recommend going with a company that knows what they're doing, certified from the manufacturer. That's a really good chance that you're going to get a successful outcome.
All right. Well, this is extremely helpful. I can use this information, and the local contractors have not spoken about some of these options, so I will explore them and wish me luck.
Good luck. You got this.
Good luck.
Thanks for the call, Richard.
Take care.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
If you have a question for us, leave us a voicemail on our hotline, 877-864-7460, and we can answer your question next time. Coming up, comedian Louis Black shows us his old house.
I'd seen John Paul Belmondo in a couple of movies, so I had his movie poster up. The other was Bogart. They just seemed to be the epitome of what cool was, and I was the epitome of what was furthest from cool.
That's next on This Old House Radio Hour. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour. I'm Jen Largess. Coming up, Cheap Old Houses are back to show us 2 classic homes under $30,000 that are in need of saving. But first, we go to Silver Springs, Maryland. Lewis Black's comedy is fueled by anger and conscience, but it started quietly in a modest post-war bungalow on the edge of Washington, D.C. He takes us back to the home where ping-pong ruled the basement, and he learned how to turn that tension into a voice all his own.
Hi, I'm Lewis Black. I'm a comedian and an actor and a writer. This is my old house. My family moved into what became the home that I lived in for 15, 16 years of my life in Silver Spring, Maryland. They moved into a community of homes that were built to be affordable for a number of folks who would become the government workforce that came out of World War II. Built in 1956, right across the street from the Naval Ordnance Lab, where my father worked. At the time, it was $13,000, maybe $15,000. You came into the community off of something called New Hampshire Avenue. The Beltway had not been built. You came into our neighborhood. If you drove to the end, which was 5 blocks, there was a farm there, a barn that you could see in the distance, nothing being grown there. All the houses in the area were similar. They were all brick, cookie cutter. We had a house that's 3-bedroom. You would notice that the couch that was on the wall and next to the couch was a hutch where all the records were that my parents had. And the records were either comedy albums, cabaret comedy, Nichols and May, and Broadway cast albums. And it wasn't somebody who was on TV. I was listening to somebody who was playing in a club somewhere. Eventually, that's what I did. I ran a room in New York City for a long time. So it had an effect. At the time, it was just, to me, this is really fun. That was what I listened to. And to your left would be the monophonic record player, and that would be where the bay window was. You notice the hallway? At the end of the hallway, if the door was open, the first thing that would catch your eye is the toilet. The bathroom was there. And what really became their aesthetic was Danish modern, before people were buying it. The chest of drawers in their bedroom was a Danish modern. I had the Danish modern desk. My brother had something in his room that was Danish. We had separate bedrooms because we had 3 bedrooms. As I grew up, the bed was pretty much utilitarian, metal frame. The big change was the decoration of the room. I'd seen John Paul Belmondo in a couple of movies, so I had his movie poster up. The other was Bogart from Casablanca. These were role models. They just seemed to be the epitome of what cool was, and I was the epitome of what was furthest from cool. Anyone with a half a wit might have had some athletes or women, but nope, I was looking for role models. What went on in there was WABC, the transistor radio. And I had a little earpiece. I would listen to Cousin Brucey, and they were playing music from New York, and I had family there. This was the link to me to the rest of the world, was that transistor radio. That there was someplace outside of here where all the houses didn't look the same. There was a realm out there, some sort of form of civilization. I was listening to what was considered soul radio down in Washington. So radio and music became like a lifeline to me at the time, and that was pivotal. Most of the homes had basements, which is where you could put your ping-pong table. You come down the stairs to the basement. It was kind of finished. We had the vinyl tile floor that they put over the concrete, and then a sink, and next to it was the washer dryer. To the right, on the left, my father had a poster board, and his hammer would be up there, and a saw, a variety of tools. He'd be down there, and occasionally he would do some work, but not a lot. And then we had a ping pong table, which was really the center of the thing, and then an old couch that ended up going down there, and a couple of places to sit, and that's where me and my friends would hang out, and we played a lot of ping pong. I was good. My brother was a little better, but I could put some spin on it. There were no ping pong role models. The wide world of sports didn't have 2 guys playing from Formosa who were 300 feet from the table. But we had some games. I just wanted to beat my brother. And I lost to him once, and I threw the racket through a window. And that was the only time that my father ever really lost it. One New Year's, I had a party down there. We had a drink called Purple Jesus, which was grape juice and grain alcohol. One of the girls ended up throwing up this purple stuff on my parents' carpeting, and I'm going, okay, well, the ball game's over here. I go downstairs, and two of my friends painted my parents' basement wall with Dayglow orange, Dayglow yellow, Dayglow green. I thought, well, now I'm doomed. And they came back, and they didn't care about the puke because it gave them an excuse to get a new carpet. And I said, well, I don't know what you're going to think about this. We went downstairs, and they both thought it was phenomenal. This is great. Who's got this in their basement? My mother said, you tell Dave to come back here tomorrow and finish painting the whole wall. If you finish it up, I won't be mad. And he did. It's spectacular. It's a piece of history that's down there. We sold the house with that wall. The downstairs became where my father did stained glass. My father designed sea mines. We mined the Haiphong Harbor of North Vietnam. And my father at that point made the decision to retire. He said, I'm not going to do this. You've done something with my weapons that I didn't sign up for. It was pretty remarkable. And he was giving up a portion of his retirement by doing that, went and apprenticed to a guy who did stained glass. And my father, I always felt, wanted to be an artist. And now he could. My parents were 83, and I said, you should think about finding a senior's place. And they did. A year later, they moved out. The neighborhood's still standing. It's multicultural now. It was like dominoes. That was the other interesting thing about being born and raised there, was that they overlooked some of the most beautiful land on earth in Maryland. And they said, by God, we're going to build us a mall. So there were malls everywhere. And then our neighborhood butted up against what became another neighborhood that butted up against what became another neighborhood. We moved into farmland. All of the farmland became neighborhoods. And my brother and I were raised there. It was a really comfortable place to be raised.
That was Lewis Black. For the latest tour information, go to lewisblack.com. Do you ever see an old house online and think, maybe that could be my life? A place with history, maybe a porch swing, and stories in the walls. You kind of start to picture yourself there, and it starts to feel so real. Well, that's the magic of Cheap Old Houses, an Instagram page created by Ethan and Elizabeth Finkelstein that uncovers old farmhouses and historic homes on the market for next to nothing. But we all know the cheapest homes can be the most expensive to fix. So we asked them what it really takes to bring these old places back. Hi, Ethan. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Jen.
Hey.
And this old house contractor, Zach Detmore, is here to tell us where the charm ends and where the work begins. Hi, Zach.
Hello. Ready to break some dreams?
Hopefully not. Our first listing today is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family home with 1,655 square feet. This 2-story Victorian house was built in 1930 and comes with a 2-year-old furnace, a new water tank, and sump pump in the basement. While the pictures in the listing do look promising, they don't show, of course, a few key areas like the bathrooms, the basement, or the bedrooms. This 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family Victorian home is located at 319 Ridge Avenue in Wellsville, Ohio, with an asking price of just $29,000. Ethan and Elizabeth, why do realtors hide some of these key rooms in listings like this?
Well, it depends. I'm going to assume that a house listed at $29,000 that really is this beautiful has some issues it's hiding. I do take issue with the fact that the listing says it's a Victorian house built in 1930 because that's just impossible. Technically, the Victorian era ended in 1901, but beside that, everything about this house speaks to the styles of the 1890s, perhaps, with that very beautiful and intricately detailed bay window and all of the different textures, which were very typical of the Queen Anne style, which was very popular at that time.
Zach, what are you seeing in this listing?
Yeah, so when you look at the front of this house, usually I get concerned thinking of some, young person maybe getting into their first house, being wowed by the ornate details and then being shocked by how expensive they are to recreate. But a lot of the really expensive stuff on the facade of this house to replace at least appears to be in pretty nice shape. So that's cool. the inside, everything's really well preserved. This looks like it hasn't had a tremendous amount of different homeowners, at least. The kitchen's definitely been renovated, but it hasn't necessarily been renovated since, I want to say, the 70s. This house doesn't really scare me. Man, it's quite well kept inside in terms of that foyer and all that detail there. And all the woodwork seems preserved.
Yeah.
Another reason sometimes I see realtors not taking photos is if the house is a rental and it has tenants inside, they don't often go in the rooms. I don't want to generalize, but I will, because I spend a lot of time looking at houses at this price point. And it does seem like not a ton of effort is put into photos, making sure everything is in there. It is just, I think they just expect people kind of know what they're getting, and they don't feel the need to show every single room.
Or they think that they're just going to show up with a credit card and, they're just like a little interest payment on the top of that. Yeah, I mean, a real estate agent who's going to be looking at this house is getting 6% or 3% probably of $30,000, which is $900 on commission for this house if they were to sell it. So that doesn't leave a lot of room for photos and loving on this house.
I think one thing that doesn't speak to the house, but that attracts me in a listing is when I look at a house and I get the feeling that an old person lived here, because that typically tells you that the house was occupied for a long period of time, maybe 50 years, 40, 50 years, right? And if it was comfortable for somebody, typically the work that needs to be done is maintenance related work. But those people were raised differently. They weren't afraid to maintain a house. They didn't think of houses as starter houses that were consumable. They maintained their stuff. And there's some beautiful furniture pieces in here too. And I like that about this house. It looks clean and well kept.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I like when I see a listing that says something along the lines of owned by the same family for 100 years or first time on the market in a century, usually that family hasn't done the major upgrades that someone does when they flip a house or purchase it. So that usually makes it kind of a time capsule. And I agree, the details are usually preserved in that case.
On that note, let's move on to our second listing today. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family home with 1,964 square feet. This Tudor-style brick home was constructed in 1930 with no significant updates, and it needs a lot of love and a lot of upgrades. While the home is connected to a city sewer line, there is no heat or cooling system here. So this 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family home is located on East Main Street in Louisville, Mississippi, with an asking price of $28,850. Elizabeth, can you explain to our listeners how the inside of this home looks?
Well, based on the inside of this house, I would have a hard time identifying the style. It is a Tudor Revival style house. The outside is very indicative of that. It has that charm of kind of a medieval little fairy tale house with the arched door that is painted red, which is so sweet. But then you go in and it looks like it had some changes done in maybe the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's really a hodgepodge of things going on in here. I see one room that maybe has some original trim, perhaps some original windows. And otherwise, I'm seeing a lot of wood paneling, a lot of subfloor. Zach, would love to know what you think of this sagging floor in one of the pictures. It looks like this house definitely needs a lot of work, but the style is evident, at least in the exterior and on some of the interior rooms. So I still have hope for it.
Well, here to kill that hope is Zach Detmore. Zach, what do you see and what's concerning you here?
Sure. Yeah, I think to Elizabeth's point, there's a photo where the floor is concave. And I think that type of thing is easy for even a novice person who's maybe looking at homes to think, well, that scares me because it looks like I'll fall through the floor. Mm-hmm. And, it could mean that there was a lot of water damage and the structure below failed. It could mean there was a pier that someone kicked or removed at some point and then it collapsed after, or it could be termite damage. Who knows? But at the end of the day, this house is in such poor shape that there's going to be a lot of projects in there. And it really doesn't matter that there's no heating system because you were probably going to replace whatever was there anyway. And it really doesn't matter that much that the floor is collapsed because at the end of the day, we're talking how much does, a van full of 2x8s really cost you? We're talking $300-$400 and some plywood. on top of a purchase of $25,000, which is less money than I've spent this week on lumber. So, my point is like, oh, who cares, right? We're talking $25,000 and the house is made of brick, right? Even if the whole house on the inside collapsed and you just had this brick exoskeleton, that's 25 grand right there. So I'm not too concerned about any of this. Like, who cares? It's a beautiful house from the outside. The inside's kind of ugly, but, you know, it was going to be renovated. 25 grand.
I think that's kind of the interesting thing. When you see a house get to a certain point, you almost hope it's worse because you're going to redo it anyways. And sometimes when these houses sort of fall on the line, it is almost more difficult to say, hey, this needs to get scrapped.
I'll tell you, these 3 ingredients that I see on Zillow listings that just breaks my heart every time is luxury vinyl plank flooring put next to white quartz with marbling in it in a gray cabinet. If I see those things together, I'm like, I can never purchase this house. Because it's clearly sending the message that I want this to sell as quickly as possible, and I was willing to do it at any cost. And it's so sad because you don't really want to rip new things out and throw them in a dumpster. Whereas this house, it's clear as day that a lot of this stuff isn't salvageable. And at least you don't have to have that emotional journey about why am I filling landfills just because my taste is changing.
There, you've written the new listing here. Just no emotional journey necessary.
Yes. Just a hammer, go at it.
Yes. Pure potential. Well, 2 great options this week. We appreciate you guys bringing them along, and we hope someone comes along and really sees these for what they're really worth.
Save this old house.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Zach.
Take care. See you later.
Bye, guys.
If you want to see some of these old houses, follow @cheapoldhouses on Instagram. Or you can check out their newsletter at cheapoldhouses.com. Who knows? You might just find your next home. And now it's time for one last thing. My favorite tool.
Hey, Jen, it's Zach Detmore, contractor for the show. So my favorite tool is actually a toothbrush, and here's what I use it for. When we're assembling casing or detailed molding where you have a lot of in and out in the profile of the molding, sometimes when you're sticking those 2 pieces of wood together with wood glue, you get what's called squeeze out, and you want the squeeze out. And if it were flat, you could just wipe it away with a damp cloth. But if you have a detailed profile, we actually get in there with a toothbrush and scrub that glue out of the profile, because guess what? Once that glue is hard, it is very difficult to sand out, especially in those details. So we get it out with a toothbrush, and then once it's dry, quick sand, ready for paint. It's ready to go. It's an inexpensive tool to have in your arsenal.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.